Hey everyone, welcome to Bulletproof Selling. My name is Sean Rhodes, the Chief Sales Sergeant of Bulletproof Selling and author of the book Bulletproof Selling, a guide for systemizing sales on the battlefield of business. Now, here at Bulletproof Selling, we believe that hope is not a sales strategy. It doesn't work on the battlefield, in actual battlefields, doesn't work on the battlefield of business. So we are here to help salespeople remove hope from all aspects of how they sell, from lead generation all the way past the close of the deal, onto referral generation, onto serving that customer. Because you have to understand, when you remove hope from how you sell, it doesn't just mean selling more. It means you have the ability now to serve more. So for years, we've been meeting here at Bulletproof Selling with some of the top minds in sales, best-selling authors, Hall of Fame speakers, folks that are leading national and international sales teams, and folks from a variety of countries have been our guests. We bring on guests so that you get a different perspective on sales, so that it's not just Sean talking about the link between high-performing teams in the military and the best sales teams in the world. But no, we're going to hear from folks that probably, for the majority of us, never been in the military, but they understand the value of process. They understand the value of systems because it helps them serve their customers more. Every single one of our guests alongside me, we build a sales system around a specific topic for each show. I make those systems repeatable, scalable, make them implementable so that no matter the size of your goals or the size of your team, you can take any one of our shows, find the topic that you're interested in learning more about. And there's a sales system inside that show for you to use so that you too can remove hope from how you sell and that you can serve more. And we've talked a lot of different topics here at Bulletproof Selling. 100 plus episodes. We've covered everything from developing the ideal customer profile all the way down to, hey, the deal is closed. How do we get paid faster? There's a system for just about everything. But there's a really soft skill in sales that not very many people are able to catch on to. It's the skill of developing trust and building rapport. If you watch a really good salesperson at work, you'll see them do this. They each have their own style. They have their own way. But when I get to study sales teams, because that's what I do when I'm not here on Bulletproof Selling, I'm working with some of the largest sales teams on the planet, I get to follow these salespeople out into the field. And I watch a senior salesperson, been doing this 30 years, never captured a system in his or her life. But I watch them on call after call in the same day, and I see a pattern emerge. How they establish rapport, how they establish trust. They're using a system, even if they wouldn't call it that. And I'll bet in your career, whoever you are out there listening or watching in your industries that you're in, you've probably seen this play out as well. So when I discovered our next guest, actually a neighbor of mine here in Tampa, Florida, I immediately caught on to the fact this guy knows what it is to establish rapport. And he kind of has to, because he runs a marketing company that works for nonprofits to convince people to give them money for not really a hard product or service. It's a give back to their community. So imagine you're not selling a product or service, but you're reaching out to your clients and your prospects, and you're saying, hey, I'd really like it if you could send some money my way. We're really not going to deliver anything to you, that's going to come in a box or a package. We're not going to show up at your house or your office, your place of work, and do anything for you. This is just your give back to the world, to the community, for a cause that you believe in. That's what this guy is responsible for developing marketing campaigns around. So I was really excited to bring him on to talk about the magic of rapport in the sales process. Not just the magic of rapport, not that, fairy dust that some of us are sprinkled with when we're born and we go on to be great salespeople, but the fact that it is a process. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to welcome the founder of Share, Mr. Matt Lombardi. Matt, welcome, sir, to Bulletproof Selling.
Sean, thanks so much for having me, man. I really appreciate it. Excited to chat all things rapport in sales today.
Something you're an expert at. So, Matt, talk to us about your career path. You're an entrepreneur now, but you weren't always that way. Talk to us about how you got into this field, the lessons that you've learned in sales. Now you're leading a team that stretches across the country and convinces people to give money for things that they never actually receive as a hard product. So walk us through your history and what you're doing today.
Yeah, I'll give you the background, and then we'll talk a little bit more about how you convince people to give to something that they aren't really getting a good product for sometimes. So my background is not in sales at all. I started my career in church ministry. So I at 18 thought, hey, I'm going to go and go to college. And unlike a lot of my friends who were, I'm going to go in business or I'm going to go finance or something that's going to move the needle for me financially, felt just really deeply moved to go into serving local churches, leading those in order to help those communities grow and thrive. Right. So did all my study, training, master's degree in seminary, and quickly realized that, hey, you know what? This whole working in church thing is a lot of fun. There's a lot of impact there, but it doesn't pay the bills very well, and it's kind of hard on the family. And so about midway through my career in my 20s, made a pivot out of that. And actually my first sales job was a really crummy one that maybe a lot of your audience can relate to. I was a server in a restaurant. So kind of tried to do
I've been there too. It is a crummy job.
It's a crummy job. You're on your feet all day. And yet your entire paycheck depends on, I was at a high-end steakhouse. So it was how much wine can you sling? How many cocktails can you get them on? How many big steaks, right? And so you quickly realize within 5 or 10 minutes, if you can't get that table or get that customer to really like you and to have a good relationship, you're toast for the rest. It's going to be a long few hours that they're sitting at your table where you have to interact with them. So that was my first foray into sales. Very, very kind of base level, almost door-to-door style, right? Like a lot of folks have. And then after that, started a consulting group. I had started my own business on the side while I was a server. That I grew with digital marketing. We were doing event planning for YouTube influencers really early on in the kind of heyday of YouTube becoming a big thing. So started partnering with them, doing events for them, and started that business, sold that to a partner, kind of got out of it first by the, kind of hair of my chinny chin chin without losing any money. And then started doing digital consulting for nonprofits because of my background, having grown a business using digital marketing techniques and having a lot of connections in that space. That morphed into Share about 2 years later. And we were now about 3.5 years into Share and growing like crazy, which has just been a huge blessing.
And your work then is to go to these nonprofits and some of the larger nonprofits in America and probably some medium-sized ones and build marketing campaigns for them. So talk to me a little bit about the work that involves, because I'm thinking to myself, is it billboards? Is it radio spots? Is it all the ads that I see whenever I search anything on Google?
Yeah.
How far does that reach, and what does that look like for a nonprofit?
Yes to all of those. So some of it is traditional media. We're heavy in digital media. So we really are trying to help nonprofits come into the 21st century. And so you mentioned, hey, nonprofits aren't really selling anything. We always say this: when someone gives to your organization, they're actually purchasing significance for themselves. So if you as a nonprofit are not delivering the value, the impact, showing them where those dollars went, right? You're saying, hey, give us sometimes, mega donors, hundreds of thousands of dollars on one check. If you don't follow that up by showing and delivering the value, they have been robbed of the opportunity to actually feel like they make a difference in the world. That's why people give. They give because they want to know that they're making a difference, that they're serving their community. And if you don't show them that, then you're failing to give them the product that they bought from you. So what we say is, hey, our whole approach is to come into nonprofits and help them understand, yes, here's how you get new donors, here's how you get more money, but here's how you communicate with the people who have already given. Here's how you communicate the impact that you've had, the lives you've changed, how many schools have been built or wells have been dug in Africa, whatever that may be at a large scale. Sometimes these nonprofits have hundreds of thousands of donors. So it's communicating to all of them, here's the impact and here's where your dollars went.
And most of those nonprofits have folks that are dedicated to going out and getting those donations. So they would be considered the salespeople of the nonprofit world. They're the fundraisers. For you and your team, are you the only one that is closing these deals, or do you have people that are responsible for business development as well?
Yes, we have some folks responsible for business development. Because of the nature of the industry we're in, though, it's so hyper relational that most of the deals end up going through me. At some stage, there's some sort of relational touch point, because these organizations, they're very, very slow to trust. They're very, and maybe some of your audience can resonate with an audience like this, very traditional, not a lot of innovation. It's kind of I won't say a good old boys network, but it's, hey, we know this person, we've worked with them for 20 years. Doesn't really matter if they're good or not, but they're our person. So we have to break through that, which often takes a lot of relational equity and a lot of social capital built up with the client.
So if I'm on a call, then how does this play out if it plays out poorly? for any of you've got a new nonprofit in your pipeline. They've heard about you. They've heard good things. They're calling up. They're saying, Matt, heard great things about Share. Talk to me about what you do. If you can't establish rapport and trust, what happens to that deal? Even if you can provide a lot of value to them, without rapport and trust, what happens?
Yeah, so those deals pretty quickly fall apart, right? If there's just not a connection there, if they just feel like either you don't get us or you're just trying to sell us something, you're not really trying to serve us well, those deals really, really quickly fall apart. That relational aspect for us, at least, has to be first and foremost. The other thing that goes along with it is, we joke about it all the time, but we talk about it on customer service side. 90% of our customer service problems come in the sales process, but it's also true with our qualification, right? Most of our problems in the sales process have actually happened because we haven't qualified the client well. So when we go to build rapport and build that connection, it doesn't matter how great our service is. It doesn't matter what funny joke I've got or how we go deeper level really fast. Any of those strategies we have don't work if the client isn't actually a good qualification for us. And so we've got really clear definitions on who's qualified, who do we want to be talking to. If it's not that person, generally the conversation's not going to go well because they don't have the authority to purchase. They're not in a place in the life cycle of their budget where they can. I mean, that's the unique thing for us with nonprofits. Their budgets are really, really fixed. It doesn't matter what revenue's doing. They don't get to just go add more things. So we have specific times of years where we can land clients and some that we know are just no-fly zones.
And the idea of rapport is being a very soft skill. It's one of those soft skills like emotional intelligence. We can train ourselves in, but there are people that are naturally gifted at it. Absolutely. And I can tell you're one of those folks. It's a skill that I'm always working on. But I talk to salespeople about it, and they say, "All right, I get the value of rapport, but is it really going to help me?" And what you just said is the key that unlocks why rapport needs to be built into every sales call, because it massively impacts your rate of being able to qualify your prospects. So if you're dedicated to serving and selling, and most good salespeople are, if I can amp up my level of rapport with my prospect, I can qualify them faster or disqualify them and open up space to get, more calls with people that are qualified. So where do you see salespeople relying on hope when they're looking at that call list they've got to make today? They're looking at all the emails they have to send, all the prospects they haven't qualified. Where are they relying on hope and thinking that, hey, I can just show up with a smile and that's enough to build rapport?
Yeah, the biggest area is they don't do the research in advance, one, to understand their client, and they don't have a set list of questions that they know they have to ask to get into the world of their potential client, right? For me, I'm always asking things. I even ask silly things. Like I'll say like, hey man, walk me through what a day in the life of your job looks like. Like, just help me understand what you do day to day. Salespeople, often we think, oh, well, I'm just going to go in and I get what they do. Sure, they're for us, it would be an advancement director or a marketing director. I know what they do. Well, the problem is every organization is different. And so when we go in assuming, oh, rapport is going to be easy, I know this job title, I know this role, I've sold to this a million times. Well, you don't know if they have a boss who actually put them on these other 90 as assigned tasks that were never on the job description, right? And actually, those are the real pain points, but you didn't take time to build rapport and to really get in their world. I mean, one of the things I like to ask too is it's a kind of a common question I ask is like, hey, just between you and me, who frustrates you the most in your organization to have to work with?
People answer it, I'll bet too.
And they'll always answer it. That's a great way to get them talk because everyone likes to complain, right? Everyone likes to complain about what's bothering them. But that's a huge one because what you'll start to see is, a marketing team who says, oh, our advancement team is driving me nuts. They're doing this and this, and they think this tech stack's going to work and they think this process works. And now all of a sudden I'm in their world with them and they see me as an ally to have safe conversations that maybe they can't even have with their coworkers. And so now all of a sudden as a salesperson, you're on their team and you're saying, cool, let's solve that problem for you. Oh, by the way, I've got a solution I think it helps. So huge for us is getting in their world and going into that first call with a real desire to learn about them. And so I've got preset questions I want to use to build deeper rapport at a really quick pace, but in a way that makes them feel like, okay, you're on the same team with me.
So let's build a system for this because I think it could benefit any salesperson in qualifying faster, getting on their team, which is a great topic that we'll have to have you back on the show just to talk to that about. Like, how do you get yourself perceived as a member of their team? Because so many doors open up for you when you're in that position. So when we build process and systems on the battlefield, it removes hope from our strategy. It means we get to bring more people home.
Yeah.
For salespeople, it means you get to bring more deals home. So every new system trims more hope away from what we do so that we can be more present, so that we can serve more. So we use this acronym TRIM as we build new systems here at Bulletproof Selling. So the T in TRIM stands for the trigger.
Yeah.
This is a system. I've got a whole slew of them on the shelf, and I need to know, when do I pull this one off of the shelf? Is it before I get on the call? Is it when I'm researching this prospect? Is it when I'm developing my ICP? Where does this system trigger itself so that I know, pull that off the shelf and start working on developing better rapport with this particular prospect? Where does that start?
Yeah, for us, that trigger has to start prior to the call. It's in the research phase. You want to make sure the ICP is a good fit, right? Both job title, but then also length of time at the organization. We want to make sure that, do they actually have the tech stack we need to work with? Are they mature enough as an organization? Revenue is a big one for us. So we want to make sure, hey, do they hit these certain things? So for us, that first trigger is to build rapport with them. We're going to do that before the meeting ever starts, that we know confidently going into it, that we know exactly where they are and kind of where they're playing ball. And that way we can enter into that world.
So if I've gotten those filters in place and that's pressed forward, so we've got the green light on this particular deal.
Yep.
Now we're in the repeatable part of this,
Yep.
Which could start before the call as well. You'd mentioned having great questions prepped, so that's probably going to happen before you're actually ear to ear or face to face or screen to screen. But what are the maybe 4 or 5 steps that I should follow to make sure that I'm walking this through in a repeatable way, so I'm developing rapport and qualifying faster?
Yeah. So for repeatable steps there, what you're going to do every time for us, at least, is to say, okay, we know we've done the research in the back end. We know they're the right fit for us. Now, is there a way, the first thing that we want to know is, like, is there a way into this organization through this person? So is this person my champion? That's number one. And the way that we identify that is really just, some of it is, how responsive are they? How excited are they about the product? And that can be a qualitative measure, but even assigning that post that first kind of demo call to say, okay, were they a 10 excited about this? Were they 1 excited about this? Were they making eye contact? Were they kind of looking at their screen the whole time? So that's the first thing we want to do is be able to track with them. Okay, what's that? Can they be the true champion for this product within their organization? Once that clicks the box, then we're able to say, okay, so from there, if they're the champion, who do they need to connect us with in the organization in order to make this deal go further, or to further the deal, or to expand it, or upsell, or cross sell, whatever that is. So we know who's next in that organization. That's the next thing for us that makes it repeatable. And then one of the next things that we want to look for is, okay, so we've got the champion. We know that they can get us the right person. That's that next step. And after that, is this something that they have really the budget and the appetite to scale at the organizational level? Because there needs to be so much buy-in from their team to say, yes, we're going to work with these guys instead of our in-house team, or we're going to bring them in and have them on our team. So we need to make sure that, we've got all the key leaders bought in, but are there any things within the organization that are going to trip us up to show us, oh no, IT actually, even though they're not a stakeholder or a key decision maker, rather, they are a stakeholder. That's the thing we like to identify, is the difference between who's a decision maker, but who's a stakeholder that could trip us up. So that's the third thing we always want to look for, is who's that stakeholder that could trip us up. Do we need to have one-on-one conversations with them? That's part of our process is, I shouldn't have talked to IT, but I'll hop on a call with IT just to build rapport with them, build trust. There are never any issues that we run into that are actual technical challenges. It's always trust challenges.
Got it. So we've got making sure this person is my champion, judging how responsive they are, who they can connect us with inside the organization that can also be an advocate or a cross-sell opportunity here. And then, do they have the budget and the appetite? Who are the people that could serve as speed bumps? And can we talk with them so that we can win them over as well? You mentioned having some questions prepped. Are those questions sprinkled through those steps, or are they specific questions about them? Which is, you mentioned a great one. Tell me about a day in the life of you. Great question. It opens up all. And the other one you mentioned, who frustrates you the most?
Right.
Brilliant question.
Yeah.
You can pull those out of your skull in the moment because you're that gifted. But for the rest of us, what can we do, and what questions should we really tee up so they're in front of us before we get on the call, so I don't have to just rely on my brilliance?
Absolutely. Yeah, I like to do those with those are really questions for our champion, right? Because that's the most important person in this entire equation. So we're really doing those with the champion. As we get farther along, I may bring those in for some of them. Sometimes they're not appropriate though, right? So if I'm meeting a senior VP, but he's got all of his team with him. Really hard to ask him for everyone. So who frustrates you, within your organization?
Yeah.
That's a bad look for them, right? So those questions are uniquely for our champion, where I'm trying to build rapport, because that relationship is going to take us the distance. So some of the questions I like to have teed up in advance, and these are just kind of stock standard ones that I like to have. So I want to ask them how long they've been at the organization. That's a big one, because if what we know about our customers, if they're really new, they're probably more likely to actually want to upset the apple cart and do change, because they're coming from another organization. Hey, I'm the new guy on the block. If they're in the marketing director role that we're trying to sell to, we know that's going to be a big win. And so that's a big one for us first is okay, hey, let's figure out how long have you been there. Second one we like to ask is what's a day in the life like for you? Like, what do you do day to day? Who do you manage? What stand-ups do you have? What reports do you have to provide? I like to ask who frustrates you in the organization, because that's going to give us insight into inner working dynamics, some of those potential speed bumps down the road. One of the things I like to ask is like, do you enjoy what you do? Just really basic. That gets to that third one that builds real trust, because sometimes they'll kind of sit there and no salesperson's ever asked me, do you enjoy what you do?
Yeah.
But they're sitting there, yeah, I think I do. I think I kind of enjoy this. Cool. That also is going to help us when we're trying to look for that excitement level of, hey, how excited are they about this? If they tell me, yeah, it's just been a grind, man. COVID killed me, and I just never really recovered my energy. Okay, this person's probably going to struggle to be a champion for me. If they don't have the inner energy with what they're doing, they're not going to fight for a cause. And so that's another question I really like to ask in advances, or as part of this rapport, is, do you like what you do? Just really, really base level. And then we'll ask some other questions. I always joke that like I'm the worst salesperson ever, because I really just ask 3 questions, which is, hey, what's your big vision for the next coming year for your department? What's going to keep you from getting there? And then like, hey, is there a way I can help you with that? And so those 3 questions are also always part of my initial call with the champion is, what's your big vision? Because that gets to their excitement level. That's, okay, well, we want to hit these goals, this metric. Oh, we'd like to see this. I'd like to see our team grow to this. Now I'm getting on the same page in that same team with them. Then I ask, okay, what's going to stop you? Because now I'm getting into reality with them of, okay, what are your real problems here? And then it's, okay, can we partner together with you? So those are questions I tend to ask on every call with that first champion that we're trying to build rapport with.
And everything that you've talked about, Matt, isn't would you like to buy my stuff, or here are the features and here are the benefits. You haven't even talked about, here's the solution that my company can provide. It's all about them learning about their goals, their challenges, what they love, what they don't like.
Yeah.
That positions you as a servant to them rather than as a salesperson. And that's going to get you much further, whether they're a nonprofit marketing director or whether they're the CEO of a billion-dollar company. So we've got the trigger, making this repeatable. The iron trim is making sure that we improve this system over time. Because I'm sure when you first started selling, you didn't have all these questions lined up. You've developed them. I'd like to get a couple of steps that people can walk through, maybe every quarter, to sit down and look at this process and say, all right, how do I make this better? Do I look at the market, that I'm in right now? Has it shifted? Am I getting better or worse responses from some messages, and some questions are getting me a 5-minute explanation? Some are just getting passed off completely. How do I improve this process to make sure that it is getting better over time?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think if we're looking at how do you improve it, one of the ways that this process can be improved is oftentimes just what we've seen. The building rapport is so key, but closing the deal sometimes, if you've gotten on their team or you need to shift your tone, right? We all know like, hey, sales is art as much science. So sometimes you're in the, hey, we're buddies, we're on the same team. And sometimes you have to be the opposition, say, we need to close this deal now, right? We need to get this done, or I need to push back in contract negotiation. So one of the ways this can improve, and a way I'd be looking to improve for our team, but then also anyone who's trying to, hey, have this more of a model of building rapport, being on the same team with the customer, would be to say, how do we effectively close the gap between, okay, great, we're on the same team, they love us, they like the product, they're all in on that. But when the speed bumps do hit, how do we shift into challenger mode and close the sale with them and get them to the point where they say, okay, yeah, like you can push me a little bit too. That trust is there, so you can, but oftentimes that's a hard thing to get over is, oh no, how do I shift? Because we've been buddy, and now all of a sudden, hey, no, that rate isn't good enough. You do need to pay more, right? Or no, we're not going to negotiate on contract length or on payment terms. So some of that would be a way to always be looking to improve on this sort of processes. Hey, how do we make sure that these deals are closing at a high enough clip and that we're not struggling to to actually to challenge the client sometimes when they need to be challenged.
And so I would almost say then tracking where pushback happens.
Yeah.
Because you've established that rapport. Now we're in negotiations, we're in contract, we're in talking about how this rolls out inside their organization, how it gets delivered, whatever that thing is that you're selling. To look at, well, this is great, Matt, and we've had a great time, and I'd invite you over for a barbecue anytime, man. But this is just too much for me to pay right now.
Right.
Maybe that's a place of pushback, to track that over time, to say, all right, if we're dealing with that, how can we address it earlier in the sales process so that we can tee these folks up better for a smoother ride when we get to those bumpy points? Not just to assume there's always going to be speed bumps there. How do we knock them out earlier in the process? That's a great way to improve. So now the final piece of this system is the M, which is to measure it.
Yeah.
If I'm a salesperson and I've just been flying by the seat of my pants with rapport my entire career, but I'm willing to give this a shot, it's going to take more time for me initially to start to research better, to have these questions in front of me. I might extend the first couple of sales cycles that I push this thing through because I'm asking questions that I never asked before. What do you like about your job? What frustrates you the most? Maybe I've never asked that before. How do I measure this to make sure that it's better than what I was doing before? Am I just tracking closed deals, or am I tracking something on the leading edge of the sales cycle, maybe in responsiveness or in engagement or in referrals laterally into the organization? What am I going to measure to make sure that this is better than what I was doing before?
Yeah, we joke all the time that in sales, like with our sales at least, we're not fighting for attention against the competitor. We're fighting for the attention of every other priority they might have in their life to get them actually to get their focus. One of the things we like to see is how responsive are they, even just via email. That's a really basic thing. But if you've been successful at building a rapport, typically what you'll see, your email responses are a lot faster from your client. They're not waiting. You're not doing that. Hey, I emailed you and it's been a week and I still haven't, and I have to ping you 3 times every time I want a response. They're gonna be quicker on the responses. Oh yeah, I just got an email from Matt. Oh, I love that guy. Yeah, let me respond. They're energized by hearing from you, as opposed to, oh, it's another sales guy. So that's a bleeding edge measure that you can start to track is what are response times to your follow-up emails? What is the response rate to the ask for that second conversation, right? Are you actually getting from the champion to those other people? If you've really built the rapport you think you have, then you'll start to see, oh, wow, they're a lot more inclined to accept those meeting invites. We always try to get the second call set up like most people do. On the first call, we don't want to do that via email. And so if we can get that set up, what's the response rate? Are they actually showing for those meetings the second time? Are all the team members showing for the meetings? How effective have they been at going and getting those people excited? Because if we did a good job building a rapport and they say, hey, this share company, they're great to work with, I'm so excited about them, there's a really good chance that their boss, their VP, whoever it is that needs to be on the call as well, is going to kind of catch that excitement and say, yeah, we need to be on that call, as opposed to, hey, I had a call with the sales guy and I don't know, maybe we should check it out. Those meetings.
No one's excited to attend that meeting.
No one's excited to attend that second meeting to keep the sales cycle going. Whereas if you really built a champion and built rapport, they're going to be excited for the next call with you. So those are a few things I would look at tracking to see, hey, before we get to just closing the deal, are we actually getting better email engagement from them? And are we actually getting better follow-up engagement on that second meeting?
Now, those are great things to track. And so we've got this whole system now where rapport doesn't have to be this magical thing that we're born with or that we're not. We can outline this ahead of time, identifying an ideal ICP, filtering against that when we're making our calls, having those questions teed up ahead of time, having them in front of us so that we're not hoping we remember to ask every single one of them, and to make it a natural conversation. So this person clearly understands this guy's not just here to sell, he's here to serve, interested in finding out about me, the goals I have, the KPIs I'm trying to achieve. So Matt, great system end to end on taking rapport from this magic fairy dust concept into something more concrete in the sales world. How do people find out more about you, your team at Share? And for anybody that's out there listening right now, if you support a nonprofit, you need to have them get in touch with Matt. If you work for a nonprofit, you should be picking up the phone right now. Like pull the car over, pick up the phone, get in contact with Share. How do they go about doing that?
Yeah, so the best way, so our website, sharetalent.co, no M on that, sharetalent.co is our website. So you can check out more of our work there. The other place you can find me, I am really active on LinkedIn. So if you send me a LinkedIn direct message, if you comment on a post or send a connection request, I accept almost every connection request outside of random spammers from Pakistan. And generally I am very responsive on LinkedIn. That's the best way to get in touch with me in more professional setting. If you're like in a nonprofit or you're on the board of a nonprofit or you support one or you serve one and you just say, hey, you got to talk to someone, feel free to shoot me a text. I'm pretty open with my phone number. So it's 521-2439. Put that in the show notes if you want. That's the best way to reach out to me. If you just say, hey, these people need to talk to you now, send me a text and we'll set up a call with someone. But LinkedIn, more professional way, always the best place to find me.
Outstanding. Well, for all of the watchers, make sure you're subscribing to our YouTube channel at Bulletproof Selling. If you're interested in these sales systems, like you just heard Matt lay out for us, make sure you're checking all of the archived ones out at bulletproofselling.us. Of course, if you're listening, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, anywhere that podcasts can be found, make sure you're hitting the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a review, let people know that hope no longer has to be part of their sales strategy. Just like Matt explained, even the soft skills can be built into great process. Matt, thanks for giving back to the sales community today with us here. Let's get out there and make selling bulletproof.
Thanks, Sean.